The HOA trespassed onto my ranch and tried to force us to leave. And the reason? A freshly painted red barn. Apparently, it was too red for the neighborhood aesthetic. Funny thing is, the only thing that got shut down was them, after my crew paid them a visit. Let me start from the beginning. Before we dive in, let me know where you're listening from today. They didn't bring guns, but the way they strutted onto my land, they might as well have. 3 of them, black windbreakers, plastic badges, fake tactical boots, the kind with clean soles and YouTube training behind them. They moved like they were there to put something down. Problem was, they just walked into the wrong damn pasture. Dad, Colt said from the porch, squinting at the sun, granola bar halfway to his mouth. Did we forget to pay our HOA extortion fee, or is this just casual cosplay day? He grinned, but it didn't reach his eyes. Neither did mine. The lead guy, clipboard, mirrored shades, jaw tight like he practiced it in a mirror, walked up like he had purpose. Didn't knock, didn't ask, just slapped a bright orange notice to our front gate like he was condemning a crime scene. Final eviction warning, he announced, loud enough for the chickens to flinch. You have 72 hours to comply with HOA Ordinance 14.3. I stepped off the porch. My boots hit the dirt harder than I meant them to. Hands still stained with red paint from the barn, the kind of red she liked, bright, proud, defiant. Comply with what? I asked, calm, measured, trying to keep the fuse dry. He pointed, lazy and sure, to the barn. Article 7.3, he said. Unapproved visual obstruction. Color outside the authorized palette. Colt scoffed. Seriously? What are we in a Crayola cult now? The second guy stepped in, smaller, wired tight, wearing his clipboard like a bulletproof vest. You've ignored 5 formal notices, he said. Non-compliance qualifies as a breach of community cohesion. I turned to him slowly. Son, the last time someone talked about community cohesion that loud, they were in uniform, and they didn't mean it nicely. He blinked, didn't know what to do with that. The third man didn't talk at all. Just stepped away and started filming. Phone out, slow pan, barn, porch, fence. Colonel, Colt said, voice flattening. Hey, Colonel, don't film me. I moved fast, faster than I've moved in years, between them before the guy could even blink, my shadow swallowing him. You want footage? I said. Film the sign at the end of the road. The one that says no trespassing. He lowered the phone, barely. Sunglasses guy shifted. Sir, we're conducting standard enforcement. You're 3 strangers standing on private land, pointing cameras at a kid, I said. Standard ended the second you stepped through my fence. Colt muttered, this is why I keep saying we should get a dog. You are the dog, I said. You just don't bite hard enough, yet. He smiled, nervous now, not joking anymore. There was fear under it, just a flicker. That was new. Clipboard guy pulled another paper, a second notice. This authorizes remediation, he said, up to and including seizure of non-compliant structures. The barn? I asked. Among others, he replied. I stepped closer, real close. Close enough to smell the office air still clinging to him. This barn, I said, voice cold, was built by my wife. By hand. In the summer heat, before half of these houses even existed. He didn't respond, didn't care. He wasn't paid to care. The third one, silent camera guy, stepped forward again, this time slower. Ran a hand along the barn wall. Red paint smeared under his fingers, fresh, still drying. He looked back at me over his shoulder. You've got 72 hours to make it beige, he said, voice low, or someone else will. He tapped the wall twice, then turned. That tap. That's what did it. I heard it echo in my skull like the knock at a coffin lid. Colt whispered, did he just threaten a paint job, or declare war? I didn't answer, because I knew which it was. They got back in the SUV, no more threats, just that same slow drive, like they'd already won. But the tall one, before the door shut, lifted his phone again. Snapped one last photo. Not of the barn. Not the fence. Not Colt. The upstairs window. The one that used to be my daughter's room. For you, a free like is easy. But for me, it is the greatest support and encouragement. For this video, can you give me 1 like and 1 subscription? Thank you very much. I didn't sleep that night. Didn't sit. Didn't pour a drink. Didn't pretend I could. I paced. Checked the locks twice. Watched headlights that never turned into driveways. Every creak was a warning. Every silence was a trap. Colt finally came out around midnight. He didn't ask if I was okay, just stood beside me on the porch, rubbing sleep from his eyes. "You think they'll come back?" he asked. I didn't lie, I said. I think they never left. The next morning, she showed up. Clipboard, blinding smile, and the kind of voice that only ever says one thing: "You've already lost, you just don't know it yet." She didn't knock, didn't slow down at the gate, didn't call ahead. She just appeared, like a virus in a polite blouse and premium car polish. Karen White, clipboard tucked under one arm, smile weaponized and ready, white shoes not dusty, not scuffed, like the dirt itself if was under HOA jurisdiction. "Dad," Colt muttered from the barn doorway, wiping sweat off his neck. "We got a Karen incoming. 12 o'clock full smug." I didn't turn right away. I wanted to see how far she'd come, uninvited, how deep she'd walk into my life before announcing it was hers. She stopped in front of the barn, tilted her head like she was inspecting a crime scene she already knew the ending to. Then she smiled, that tight, "You're already guilty" smile, and walked straight toward me. "Eric," she sang out. "Good morning." I walked down the steps, slow, calm, boots heavy, arms loose. "Karen," I said. "Lost, or just trespassing with style today?" "Oh, I'm just following up. Routine compliance visit," she said, handing me a folder like it was a gift basket. Inside, photos. My barn. My porch. My house. Zoomed in, labeled, dated. One photo showed the barn mid-paint, Colt on a ladder, roller in hand, grinning like he'd just solved gravity. She tapped that one. "Did you use city-approved exterior paint?" she asked sweetly. "Bought it from Joe's Hardware," I said. "Didn't realize it had to come from your royal palette." She smiled tighter. "Local stores don't always sell code-compliant finishes." Colt scoffed. "Should we have ordered it from the Crown?" Karen ignored him, flipped another page. There it was, an old photo of my wife, Sarah, caught in the background of a wide shot, laughing, holding a brush, paint on her cheek. That hit like a punch I didn't see coming. Karen didn't even blink. "I see you repainted recently. That resets the compliance timeline, which means the barn's no longer grandfathered." "That barn," I said, voice lowering, "has been standing longer than your subdivision. And it's now considered non-compliant due to color, structural encroachment, and adjacency setbacks," she said, like she was reading a weather report. Colt stepped beside me. He wasn't smirking anymore. "You mean it's too red," he said. "Too visible. Too alive." Karen looked at him like he was a barking dog. "It disrupts the neighborhood tone," she said. "People move here for peace, order, not—" She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. "Not people like you. Not families like this. You're lucky," she added. "The board voted to give you a warning instead of a fine. If you repaint within 48 hours, we'll waive the penalties." "Wasn't it 72 yesterday?" Colt asked. Karen didn't blink. "Timelines are flexible, depending on attitude." I stared at her. "You think because you can spell zoning, that gives you power?" "I don't think it," she said. "I have it. Legally. This entire property is on transitional overlay land. You're the only structure holding back expansion." There it was. Not paint. Not the barn. Land. Money. "You're working for someone," I said. "Who is it?" Karen smiled again, but now it was wider, almost excited. "You think you're the first holdout I've dealt with?" she asked. "I've relocated veterans, farmers, families with 4 generations buried in their backyards." She took a step closer. "You think your grief gives you leverage?" she said, voice suddenly sharper. You think a barn makes you untouchable? I felt Colt shift next to me, felt my pulse tighten. Karen's eyes narrowed. Your wife died in an accident, she said. A mistake you've been running from. Maybe it's time to stop punishing this neighborhood for it. Colt flinched. So did I. I took one step toward her. Only one, but it changed everything. The smile slipped. Her hand tensed around the clipboard. If you mention her again, I said, I'll forget this is a conversation. She recovered, just barely. 48 hours, she said, backing up. Then the removal order proceeds. The board is prepared to involve outside enforcement if needed. For you, a free like is easy. But for me, it is the greatest support and encouragement. For this video, can you give me 1 like and 1 subscription? Thank you very much. Enforcers like yesterday? Colt asked. She paused, didn't answer. Just turned to her car, waited like a monument to silence, shiny, perfect, pretending to belong. She got in, drove off without looking back. Colt stood there for a long second. She knew about Mom. I nodded. She used it. She's going to win, isn't she? I looked at the barn, the red fading in the sun, the echo of my wife's laugh somewhere in the beams. No, I said. But she's going to make it hurt first. Colt didn't say anything, but he reached out and touched the barn wall, quiet, careful, like it was a person. That night, I sat on the porch, phone in hand. Old number lit up on the screen. I didn't press dial. Didn't want to explain. Didn't want to ask. And then it rang. Unknown caller. I answered, didn't say a word, just listened. The voice on the other end was low, rough, familiar. You get visitors today, Frank? He said. I closed my eyes. Yeah, I said. She dropped a folder? Yep. Did it smile? I almost laughed. Almost. Then I said, I think it's time. Frank didn't respond right away. Then, I'll be there by morning. I didn't know if I was ready to face Frank, but the war had come home, and I was out of ways to play nice. I should have known the silence was too clean. No hammering, no muttering, no Colt singing off-key just to make the chickens scatter. Just quiet. And quiet on a ranch isn't peaceful, it's a warning. I wiped the sweat off my brow and headed toward the shed. The door was cracked open. Light from the tie window lit the dust like smoke in a bar fight. And there he was, Colonel, standing in front of the old army trunk, holding my cut like it belonged to him. He didn't flinch when I walked in, didn't even look up. His fingers were running over the patch, black stitching, skull and scythe, faded from time but still sharp enough to cut. You really wore this? He said. Not just for fun? For real? I didn't answer, because part of me wasn't sure I could. I thought Dale was exaggerating, Colt continued. All that stuff about recon rides. About Frank. About what went down that night. He looked at me, finally. You never said anything about her. About you? About what happened? I took a breath. Didn't help. Put it down. He didn't move. I just want to understand, he said. Why you shut it all off. Why you buried this. Why you're so scared to pick up the phone when it's obvious you need backup. Colt, my voice cracked through the shed like a shotgun. His shoulders stiffened. He set the cut down slowly, gently, like it was a photograph he didn't want to tear. And then he turned, eyes sharp, challenging. She died because of them, didn't she? I said nothing. You were late. She went after you. And you've been carrying it ever since. Still nothing. You don't even wear her ring anymore. That hit like a gut punch, not because it wasn't true, but because I couldn't tell him the real reason. Because it hurt too much to feel like I'd earned it. She wasn't supposed to be there, I said, finally. I told her to stay home, but she knew something was off. Flash, dark heat in my chest, like I was back inside the wreckage again. She followed the tracker on my phone. Rode out alone. Didn't tell anyone. My throat closed. She found me. Got between me and Briggs. Called the crew. Took 2 rounds through the ribs before I even realized she was there. Colt was frozen, not blinking. Last thing she said, I continued, was, "You are not dying today." I looked at the vest. At her funeral, Frank handed me that cut. Said it still belonged to me. I told him to burn it. "But you kept it." "Yeah," I said. "To remind me what it cost." Colt looked at the barn through the shed window. "You think repainting it keeps her here?" "No," I said. "I know it doesn't." "Then why care?" "Because it's the only thing left she built with her hands." I looked at him, now, really looked. "And because you were too young to remember what it meant." Colt picked up the cut again, held it like a question. "You could wear it again," he said. "Just once. Just to show them who you are." "No," I said. "Because if I wear it again, I don't take it off." I went back to the porch, didn't say a word. Thought the moment had passed. Until the hammering started. Fast, clumsy. I ran. Colt was on the ladder, trying to repair the barn panel the enforcer had cracked. His arms stretched high, too high. The base of the ladder shifted, one leg sank in the soft dirt. "Colt!" I yelled. Too late. The whole thing tipped. He crashed down hard. I was already moving, didn't even feel my feet hit the ground. He groaned, more angry than hurt. But then I saw it, his arm, split open just below the elbow. Blood smeared across the panel, red on red, too dark, too vivid. The barn looked like it was bleeding. I froze. That image, it stuck, seared into my skull. "You okay?" I asked, kneeling beside him. "I'm fine," he lied. "You're bleeding like a stuck pig." "Then get me a Band-Aid," he smirked, "just barely." We cleaned him up inside. I wrapped his arm in gauze. He winced, but didn't complain. Back on the porch, he leaned his head against the post, staring at the barn. "I just wanted to fix it," he said. "Figured if I did it right, they'd back off." "They won't." He nodded. "Then, this is war, isn't it?" I didn't answer, because war is a word you don't say out loud until you're ready to burn something down. Instead, I went inside, pulled the phone from the drawer, stared at it. At the number. At the name. Then pressed call. It rang once, twice, then a voice I hadn't heard in 4 years said, "Took you long enough." And just like that, the past was riding home. Dale didn't show up, he detonated into the driveway like a conspiracy theory with wheels. His truck backfired twice just pulling in, bumper held on with wire, windows covered in stickers that said things like "If it's not illegal, it should be," and Area 51 called me first. I stepped out onto the porch, already bracing. Colt leaned around me. "Is that a flamethrower in the back?" "Leaf blower." Dale yelled from the driver's seat. "Modified for effect." He climbed out like a raccoon with a Wi-Fi signal, grinning, twitchy hands already full of a laptop bag, a lunchbox full of flash drives, and a gas station burrito still in the wrapper. "I brought juice," he said. "You're going to need it." Inside, we cleared off the kitchen table. Dale dumped out a mess of hard drives, extension cords, and what I swear was a car battery rigged to a fan. Colt raised an eyebrow. "You building Skynet, or snitching on a neighborhood?" "Both," Dale said. I traced the enforcer's payment trail. He shoved a drive into my laptop. The screen flickered, loaded first a PDF of HOA bylaws, scanned, stamped, standard. Then the real file. Shell companies, contracts. One page in particular lit the fuse. It showed a flowchart, janky, color-coded, labeled in Dale's handwriting. At the top, Whitelow Neighborhood Preservation Council. Underneath, Shelby Group, Nevada, inactive. Clearwater Land Trust, Florida. BCH Development Incorporated. San Diego. Colt leaned in. "So what is this?" Dale beamed like a mad scientist unveiling a new species. "It's fraud. Beautiful, old school, layered fraud. They use the HOA as the front, but all the eviction pressure, the zoning complaints, the enforcement contracts, all of it's routed through dummy corporations that tie back to one developer." He tapped the screen, "Briggs Consolidated Holdings." I went still. Colt said, "That name again." I nodded. Dale didn't notice, he was on a roll. Karen's not just some overpaid clipboard, she's a plant. I found her consulting invoices. She's being paid off. Book monthly transfers from a holding company owned by Briggs's Real Estate Trust. Colt frowned. But she's the HOA president. Nope, Dale said. Technically, there is no HOA. It was disbanded in 2017. They just kept the name on paper to trick residents and file enforcement claims through code gray zones. I stood up. Didn't know I had just moved, because my body remembered something my brain didn't want to. The last time I saw Briggs, he was smiling, just like Karen. And he shook my hand like a friend before he gutted us from the inside. Colt kept scrolling through the files. He stopped on a drone map. It showed our ranch in high res, with red overlays. He tapped a blinking zone just behind the barn. What's that? Dale leaned in. Oh yeah, that's the proposed helipad. For you, a free like is easy. But for me, it is the greatest support and encouragement. For this video, can you give me 1 like and 1 subscription? Thank you very much. Colt looked at me, eyes wide, voice thin. They're planning to land helicopters in our backyard. I didn't speak. Dale flipped to the next file. It was a development proposal. Pages of legalese, schematics, marketing decks with stock photos of smiling couples holding wine glasses on fake porches. Welcome to Clearwater Estates, the heading read. Private. Secured. Elevated living. Eric's ranch labeled, final holdout. Eminent domain pending. Colt read the words aloud, paused, then said, they're trying to delete us. Dale finally slowed down. His voice dropped. This isn't about a barn, he said. This is corporate warfare. I nodded, but my head wasn't here. It was back at that gas station outside Locks, the one where Briggs handed me an envelope, told me I'd get my cut right before the feds showed up an hour later. My wife always said the man smelled like bleach and betrayal. She was right. You sure about calling Frank? Dale asked. No, I said. But I'm out of ways to fight like a farmer. Colt stood up straight. Then fight like what you were. That hung in the air, heavy. No joke in his voice, just resolve. I looked at him, really looked. He wasn't a kid anymore. Not after bleeding for the barn. Not after seeing his family mapped for demolition. He walked to the door, looked back. I want to help, he said. Not just be part of this. I want to take them down. Outside, Dale started setting up equipment, drones, signal boosters, a radio jammer he built out of an old microwave. In spite, Colt helped him drag the cables up to the barn roof. I stood back, watched them work. Watched my son and my brother in arms building a war room where his mother once painted siding. It felt like something had shifted. Not just in the land, but in me. That night, the wind picked up. I opened the window upstairs, looked out at the barn. Its red walls lit in moonlight, streaked with dried blood, surrounded by tech, by resistance, by ghosts. I didn't pick up the cut. Not yet. But I hung it on the back of the chair, facing the door, watching, waiting. Frank was on the road. The crew was waking up. And Briggs? He had no idea the ranch he thought was marked for demolition was about to become a fortress. You don't hear Frank spike, you feel it. Deep in your ribs, like thunder chewing gravel, like the end of a war pulling up to your porch. And steel. And smoke. They came in as the sun was rising. 4 riders, no headlights, just dust trails and silence. Frank rode lead, still had that old Indian bike, paint chipped, seat cracked, tank etched with a faded reaper that looked more like a scar than a symbol now. Behind him, Bones, Junebug, Lenny, the ghosts I'd ridden with. The men who helped carry my wife's casket. I stepped onto the porch. Colt beside me. He whispered, they look like a deleted scene from a western where everyone dies. I didn't disagree. Frank dismounted slow, didn't smile, didn't blink, just took one long look at the barn. At the patched siding. At the fresh scrape where the blood hadn't quite come off. Then he looked at me. You let it get this far? I nodded once. Didn't start the fight. He stepped up, closer than was comfortable, looked me over like a man inspecting a wrecked car. But now you're in it. Neck deep. He cracked his neck. About damn time. Inside, I poured coffee. No words. He sat like he never left. Colt watched from the corner, half curious, half suspicious. Frank nodded at him. "This the kid?" "Colt," I said. Frank's eyes narrowed. "No offense, but you look more TikTok than take." Tie window lit the dust like smoke in a bar fight. And there he was, Colonel, standing in front of the old army trunk, holding my cut like it belonged to him. He didn't flinch when I walked in, didn't even look up. His fingers were running over the patch, black stitching, skull and scythe, faded from time but still sharp enough to cut. "You really wore this?" he said. "Not just for fun? For real?" I didn't answer, because part of me wasn't sure I could. I thought Dale was exaggerating. Colt continued. "All that stuff about recon rides. About Frank. About what went down that night." He looked at me, finally. "You never said anything about her. About you? About what happened?" I took a breath. Didn't help. "Put it down." He didn't move. "I just want to understand," he said. "Why you shut it all off. Why you buried this. Why you're so scared to pick up the phone when it's obvious you need backup." "Colt," my voice cracked through the shed like a shotgun. His shoulders stiffened. He set the cut down slowly, gently, like it was a photograph he didn't want to tear. And then he turned, eyes sharp, challenging. "She died because of them, didn't she?" I said nothing. "You were late. She went after you. And you've been carrying it ever since." Still nothing. "You don't even wear her ring anymore." That hit like a gut punch, not because it wasn't true, but because I couldn't tell him the real reason. Because it hurt too much to feel like I'd earned it. "She wasn't supposed to be there," I said, finally. "I told her to stay home, but she knew something was off." Flash, dark heat in my chest, like I was back inside the wreckage again. "She followed the tracker on my phone. Rode out alone. Didn't tell anyone." My throat closed. "She found me. Got between me and Briggs. Called the crew. Took 2 rounds through the ribs before I even realized she was there." Colt was frozen, not blinking. "Last thing she said," I continued, "was, 'You are not dying today.'" I looked at the vest. "At her funeral, Frank handed me that cut. Said it still belonged to me. I told him to burn it. But you kept it." "Yeah," I said. "To remind me what it cost." Colt looked at the barn through the shed window. "You think repainting it keeps her here?" "No," I said. "I know it doesn't." "Then why care?" "Because it's the only thing left she built with her hands." I looked at him, now, really looked. "And because you were too young to remember what it meant." Colt picked up the cut again, held it like a question. "You could wear it again," he said. "Just once. Just to show them who you are." "No," I said. "Because if I wear it again, I don't take it off." I went back to the porch, didn't say a word. Thought the moment had passed. Until the hammering started. Fast, clumsy. I ran. Colt was on the ladder, trying to repair the barn panel the enforcer had cracked. His arms stretched high, too high. The base of the ladder shifted, one leg sank in the soft dirt. "Colt!" I yelled. Too late. The whole thing tipped. He crashed down hard. I was already moving, didn't even feel my feet hit the ground. He groaned, more angry than hurt. But then I saw it, his arm, split open just below the elbow. Blood smeared across the panel, red on red, too dark, too vivid. The barn looked like it was bleeding. I froze. That image, it stuck, seared into my skull. "You okay?" I asked, kneeling beside him. "I'm fine," he lied. "You're bleeding like a stuck pig." "Then get me a Band-Aid," he smirked, "just barely." We cleaned him up inside. I wrapped his arm in gauze. He winced, but didn't complain. Back on the porch, he leaned his head against the post, staring at the barn. "I just wanted to fix it," he said. "Figured if I did it right, they'd back off." "They won't." He nodded. "Then, this is war, isn't it?" I didn't answer, Because war's a word you don't say out loud until you're ready to burn something down. Instead, I went inside, pulled the phone from the drawer, stared at it. At the number. At the name. Then pressed call. It rang once, twice, then a voice I hadn't heard in 4 years said, "Took you long enough." And just like that, the past was riding home. Dale didn't show up. He detonated into the driveway like a conspiracy theory with wheels. His truck backfired twice just pulling in, bumper held on with wire, windows covered in stickers that said things like "If it's not illegal, it should be," and Area 51 called me first. I stepped out onto the porch, already bracing. Colt leaned around me. "Is that a flamethrower in the back?" "Leaf blower," Dale yelled from the driver's seat. "Modified for effect." He climbed out like a raccoon with a Wi-Fi signal, grinning, twitchy hands already full of a laptop bag, a lunchbox full of flash drives, and what I swear was a car battery rigged to a fan. "I brought juice," he said. "For you, a free like is easy. But for me, it is the greatest support and encouragement. For this video, can you give me 1 like and 1 subscription? Thank you very much. You're going to need it." Inside, we cleared off the kitchen table. Dale dumped out a mess of hard drives, extension cords, and what I swear was a car battery rigged to a fan. Colt raised an eyebrow. "You building Skynet, or snitching on a neighborhood?" "Both," Dale said. I traced the enforcer's payment trail. He shoved a drive into my laptop. The screen flickered, loaded first a PDF of HOA bylaws, scanned, stamped, standard. Then the real file. Shook, mouse froze. He panicked, started clicking at random. "Breathe," I said. "You can't screw this up." "You're not screwing anything up." He closed his eyes, reset his grip, then 1 click, 2 keystrokes, and the transfer bar moved. Fast. "Done," he said, pulled everything. Dale cheered. "Yes. Now get out before Karen shows up with the neighborhood militia." We made it to the front, opened the door, and walked right into her flashlight beam. Karen stood like a judge at a public hanging, clipboard in hand, lip curled like she'd just caught a raccoon in her champagne fridge. "Evening," she said. "Lost?" Colt stepped behind me, quiet. I stepped forward. "Just checking in. The lighting looks good." She looked at my hand, at Colt's bag. Her eyes narrowed. "I see," she said. "So it's war now?" "No," I said. "War was last week. This is cleanup." Karen didn't move, didn't blink, just said, "You're going to regret this." I smiled. "Good. I was worried I wouldn't make the list." We walked, didn't run, didn't look back. Karen's gaze followed us like barbed wire. She knew, and we wanted her to. Back at the ranch, Dale was bouncing like a kid on energy drinks. He had a dozen screens open. "Holy mother of mail fraud," he whispered. "This is deeper than I thought." He pointed to the files flying by. Fake rezoning permits, shell company pay stubs, HOA ballots forged in Karen's handwriting, and 1 email from Briggs to Karen that simply read, "Final holdout must be neutralized by Q4. Colt stood there, frozen, reading it, letting it land. "We were a line item," he said. "No," I said. "We were an obstacle." Dale hit send. All files, all evidence, to the local press, every HOA resident, the county attorney, the mayor's office, and a Facebook group called Save Our Streets with 14,000 angry retirees. Screens lit up. Phones buzzed. Karen's kingdom cracked in real time. Colt watched it all, then asked, "Did we win?" I looked at the barn, at the dried blood still visible in the siding. "At halftime," I said. And the next morning, Karen didn't knock. She showed up with 2 squad cars and a warrant with my name on it. You can smell a raid before it happens. It's in the stillness, the wrong kind of bird song, the way the morning air holds its breath like it knows something's coming. It hit us just after 6 a.m. Frank was halfway through his 2nd cup of coffee. Junebug was outside lighting up the grill, bacon and propane both firing at once. I was standing on the porch, coffee lukewarm in my hand, trying to enjoy 5 seconds of peace before it all shattered. Then came the crunch of tires. 3 police cruisers, 1 black SUV. Karen rode in like a war horse in a pantsuit, clipboard tucked under her elbow, smile locked and loaded, dark sunglasses like this was a press tour, not a hit job. Colt came out, rubbing his eyes, barefoot, hoodie on crooked, hair a mess. "Dad?" I didn't answer, because Sheriff Winslow was already halfway up the steps with a folded warrant in his hand. Frank stepped forward. "Something wrong, Sheriff?" "No one speak," I said, flat. "Let him talk." Winslow nodded politely. "We're here under county authorization to execute a search of the premises related to cyber crimes, data theft, and unauthorized tampering with security infrastructure." I snorted. "Security infrastructure? You mean the porch light Dale hacked to run a silent camera feed?" No smile from the sheriff. Karen stepped up, and she said, brushing invisible lint from her shoulder, "We're placing Colt Keller in temporary custody for questioning." Frank barked a laugh. "You're joking." "No," she said. "I'm protecting the community." Colt flinched, like someone slapped him. "Wait, what? Why me?" Winslow held up a printed notice, a court motion with a lot of boxes checked. Based on evidence reviewed over the past 48 hours, Colt Keller was the named operator in an unauthorized digital breach of protected community servers. "That's Dale's rig," Frank muttered. I said nothing. Colt's breathing got tight. He looked at me, and in his face, I saw every question he didn't ask out loud. Did I screw up? Did I ruin everything? Are they taking me away for good? "I didn't even do anything wrong," he whispered. "You didn't," I said. "They know that." Karen stepped beside the cruiser. "You should have taken the settlement, Eric," she said. "Now it's about consequences." 2 officers moved in. Colt tried to stand his ground, but they boxed him in fast. No cuffs, but hands on his arms, light, firm, final. "Dad," he said again, voice high now, "Dad." I didn't move, didn't twitch, because the second I did, I'd go straight through someone's jaw, and they'd lock me in the back seat next. So I stayed still, stone-faced, a storm behind my ribs, and I nodded. "Hold your head up, son. I'll fix this." They shoved him in the SUV. Karen walked around the driver's side, paused, looked at me one more time, and said, "He'll be safe as long as you play smart. For you, a free like is easy. But for me, it is the greatest support and encouragement. For this video, can you give me 1 like and 1 subscription? Thank you very much." Frank slammed his fist into the porch post so hard it cracked. "What the hell are we doing, letting them take him?" "Standing down," I said, barely containing the shake in my voice. "Why?" "Because if we escalate, now we lose everything." "You call this winning?" "Not yet." Dale came sprinting from the barn, laptop in hand. "Emails are being scrubbed. They're flagging the leak as spam, calling us a malicious L." Junebug muttered, "I am offended by the lack of creativity." Bones stalked along the tree line like a ghost in flannel. Lenny loaded a net gun into the sidecar like he'd been waiting for this moment his whole life. I walked inside, straight into the hall, grabbed my wife's old photo off the wall, and stared at it, not blinking. She was holding Colt, standing in front of the barn, paint on her jeans, big goofy grin. She would have burned that courthouse down herself. Frank kicked the door open behind me. "You going soft on me?" "No," I said. "I'm aiming." He stared at me, then nodded, low, respectful. A brother's nod. That night, I sat on the porch alone. The barn lit up in moonlight, the bloodstain on the siding still faint, but there. Karen had drawn blood. She took my son, erased the evidence, hijacked the narrative, made me look like a lunatic. Which means next time, I wouldn't leave room for interpretation. Because tomorrow, I wasn't playing chess anymore, I was setting the board on fire. They scheduled the town hall for 7 p.m. Karen thought it'd be her coronation. She had her clipboard, her blowout, her little slideshow of manipulated data and buzzwords like communal preservation. What she didn't have was the United States. Dale was pacing like a squirrel on double espresso. Frank cleaned his boots like he was prepping for a funeral. Colt sat silent, laser-focused, hoodie over his head, thumb hovering over a flash drive like it held the launch codes. I just stood there, watching the feed boot up on Dale's rig, because this wasn't just retaliation, this was our justice. "All right," Dale said, cracking his knuckles. "In 3 minutes, Karen goes from queen to exposed fraud in full HD. You test the stream override?" Colt asked. "Tested it, reinforced it, married it," Dale grinned. "That feed is mine. We weren't in the town hall, we were under it, in the utility tunnel, signal boosted, patched in. Colt's idea. Smart, quiet, strategic. Karen never considered the building she ruled from had a back door." At 6:58 p.m., the HOA live stream went live. Dale tapped the audio channel. Karen's voice echoed through the tunnel. "Thank you all for being here on short notice. I know there's been confusion lately." Upstairs, she stood like a high priestess in a sweater set, hair like a helmet, smile like a knife. Behind her, the projector, ready to beam lies at the speed of PowerPoint. And then Dale whispered, "Time to go loud." The projector glitched twice, then cut. The screen blinked to black. Karen turned, confused, tapping the clicker. Nothing. And then the first file loaded, a scanned contract from Briggs Consolidated Holdings, signed by Karen White, marked Private Displacement Agreement, Keller Property. The room stilled. People leaned forward. A second doc appeared, fake rezoning plans, email logs, surveillance records. Then audio, Karen's voice. "Remove the Kellers, and the dominoes fall. I want that land by Q4. Karen spun to the screen. "Cut it off. Cut it." Dale's voice came through the speakers. "Good evening, neighbors. Hope you're enjoying tonight's entertainment, courtesy of your local resistance. Let's show you what real HOA oversight looks like." Karen grabbed the mic. "This is illegal. These files are fabricated." A woman in the front row stood. "I recognize that email thread. I was CC'd on it." A man followed. "That's my property signature. You altered it." The crowd shifted, murmurs turned hostile. "Is this a scam? You told me Keller attacked you." Eric, enter stage left. "I stepped into the line like the floor was mine, because it was." Patch on, eyes sharp, every boot step echoing off drywall. Karen turned. The room sucked in its breath. "Evening," I said. "Looks like I missed the first act." Karen pointed. "You're trespassing." "He's not a member." The sheriff stepped in from the sidewall. "Actually," he said, "Mr. Keller has a right to respond. These materials implicate multiple criminal acts." Karen's face drained color. The sheriff pulled out a folder, the one Colt handed him hours earlier, the Briggs development deal, internal HOA tampering, footage of Karen discussing removal strategy over lunch. Colt entered from the back, walking slow, backpack slung, flash drive in hand. Karen's mouth dropped. You hacked?" "I logged into your laptop," he said. "You left the password on a sticky note." The crowd laughed. Karen tried again. "You can't believe this. He's a child. He's manipulated." "I'm his father," I said, "and I taught him to tell the truth." Dale hit the final button. Every phone in the room buzzed. Residents checked them. Screens lit up. All received the same PDF, Karen White, full archive of violations, transfers, and planning board fraud. Someone gasped. A board member stood. "Karen, you said these were rumors." Another, "You lied. You told me the Kellers were squatters." Karen dropped the mic. Literally. It hit the floor with a slap. She turned to bolt. Sheriff Winslow was waiting. "Karen White, he didn't read the rights, she knew them." As she passed me, she hissed, "You'll regret this." I leaned in. "Already did. Now it's your turn." Outside, Colt exhaled hard. Frank walked up, clapped his back. "Kids got more steel than I did at that age." Junebug whistled. "Next town hall is going to be spicy." Dale just grinned. "Digital guillotine," he whispered. That night back at the ranch, I found Colt in the barn, sitting under the same beam we repaired together. He was holding something, the old patch, the one I gave him. "You ready?" I asked. He looked up. "No," he said. "But I'm not scared of it anymore." He stood, held out the patch, and said, "Let's repaint the barn tomorrow." Because Karen was finished, but someone bigger just entered the game. And his name was Briggs. You can hear power before you see it. Low engines, tires rolling too slow to be casual, a rhythm like war drums played through mufflers. It was 12:07 a.m. when they crested the hill. Black SUVs, 6 of them, each one with mirrored windows and no plates. Frank said, "This ain't county." "Nope," I replied. "It's corporate." Briggs didn't ride shotgun, he rode center. Doors opened. Boots hit dirt like teeth grinding. They fanned out, uniforms without uniforms, tactical vests, radios, mirrored shades. No badges, but their eyes told the story. They weren't here to negotiate, they were here to clean house. Briggs stepped out last. Tailored suit, polished watch, black gloves. No clipboard, no smile, just a face like a funeral photo in the calm of someone who never hears the word no. He looked at the barn, the fencing, the cameras, the dust. Then he looked at me. "Keller," he said. "Funny. I thought you'd have folded by now." I stepped forward, calm, measured. I did once. Buried my wife in this soil. Got back up. Haven't bent since. Briggs tilted his head. "No offense, but your legacy is a speed bump." Colt stood near the barn, drone controls in hand. Briggs clocked him. The boy. They said you were sharp." Colt didn't speak, didn't blink, just tapped the drone controls once, enough to activate the red light under Briggs's chin. Briggs looked up, saw the hovering dot. "You're broadcasting." "3 channels," Colt said. 40,000 viewers, growing by the second. Briggs smiled. "You've got his fire." Colt shrugged. "Yours burns houses." Briggs turned to me. "I've got an offer. One-time buyout. Clean exit. Title clears by Monday. You walk with more cash than your wife made in 5 years." Frank made a noise like a growl. Briggs ignored him. I stepped closer. "You think this is about money?" He leaned in. "I think it's about control. And right now, you're outnumbered, outfinanced, and outtimed. I own your neighbors, your board, your water supply. I don't need to outfight you, I just have to outlast you." He dropped a folder in the dirt, contract inside, ink still wet. I didn't look at it, didn't need to. Instead, I said, "Time to start the clock." June bug triggered the smoke, Southfield. Instant red haze. Loudspeaker chirps, automated alarms. Briggs's men snapped into formation, but their line broke. Lenny's drone buzzed their right flank. Bones moved in from the tool shed. Frank popped up from the brush with a net launcher Dale made out of parts I still don't understand. Controlled chaos. Distraction, not destruction. But Briggs didn't flinch. He just watched. And then he smiled. "You think this is clever?" "No," I said. "I think it's necessary." Dale's voice crackled in our ears. "Uploading the dump now." Briggs's offshore account logs, HOA bribes, property manipulation filings, all going public. EDA, 10 seconds. Colt stepped forward. "Hey, Briggs," he said. "Still think I'm just a kid?" Briggs didn't answer. So Colt hit enter. Phones all over the county lit up. Every HOA resident, every news station. Briggs's empire, live and draw. A woman stepped out of the town car on the road. She held up her phone, zoomed in. "You're done," she shouted. Briggs turned to walk away, but Bones was already there, blocking the path. Not with a weapon, just a look and a hand resting on his belt. Briggs stopped. "What now?" he muttered. "A lynch mob?" Frank cracked his neck. "Nope. Justice." Sheriff Winslow pulled up second, feds right behind him. An agent stepped out, warrant in hand. "Mr. Briggs, you're under arrest for racketeering, wire fraud, conspiracy to commit unlawful displacement, and bribery of a public official." Briggs raised his arm slowly. "Careful," he said. "You're interrupting progress." No, I replied. We're preserving it. They cuffed him on my soil, as the barn stood behind me, as Colt stood beside me, as the sun lit up the only place that ever made sense. The SUV doors slammed. Sirens faded. Briggs never looked back, didn't flinch, didn't speak. But he watched me the whole way down the drive. Colt turned to me. You okay? I nodded. Are you? He didn't answer right away, then said, I don't think I'll ever see anything the same again. I put a hand on his shoulder. Good. The land was ours. The enemy exposed. But the price, we hadn't even counted it yet. We repainted the barn on a Tuesday. No war paint, no armor, just brushes, sunlight, and silence that didn't feel heavy anymore. Colt chose the color. His mom picked. Deep, bold, unapologetic. It looked like defiance in daylight, like legacy in evening light. We didn't talk for the first hour, just worked side by side. Paint flecked his hair, he didn't notice, didn't care. He worked with his whole chest, like every stroke he wrote something that had been taken. Frank showed up halfway through, boots muddy, back brace on, carrying a sack of burgers and a single can of root beer like it was tribute. Didn't think I'd see the day, he said, nodding toward the fresh coat. Thought the next coat of red on that barn would be blood. Close call, I said. He smirked. I like this ending better. Bones pulled up 10 minutes later, said nothing, and handed Colt a custom-forged weather vane in the shape of a howling wolf. Colt held it like it was made of diamonds. It's us, Bones said, alone, loud. Still here. Colt looked at him, then me, then nodded, like he finally understood what we'd all been fighting for. That night, when the paint dried, we sat on the porch. Same chairs, same wood, same creak, but the silence felt earned this time. Colt leaned back, tired but taller somehow. He held the patch again, my patch, the one that sat in my drawer for 20 years, the one I never thought I'd hand off. I didn't think I wanted this, he said, and now he looked out at the barn, watched the wind move through the grass. I think I need it. I said nothing, just watched him pull out a needle and thread. He stitched it slow, didn't ask for help. Every loop was steady, like it was his now. Dale showed up with sparklers. We're lighting these, or I'm staging a coup. We lit them, one by one, and watched the sparks burn into the sky like fireflies that didn't care about the HOA. Later, Colt and I sat under the stars. Think they'll try again? He asked. Briggs is gone. Karen's gone. But yeah, something always comes next. He nodded. Then we'll just be louder. He reached into his pocket, pulled out his mom's old bandana, the one she used to wear when painting, still stained. He tied it around his wrist, didn't say anything about it, didn't need to. I closed my eyes, just for a second. Saw her there again, sun on her face, red paint on her jeans, that laugh, the one that always sounded like she knew something the rest of us hadn't figured out yet. She would have loved this. Not the fight, but the ending. Colt leaned his head against my shoulder, didn't say anything, just breathed. And for the first time in a long time, I felt the ground under me settle, like maybe, finally, we weren't just surviving, we were rooted. Tomorrow, we'd fix the roof. Day after, the fence line. And maybe next week, Colt would start building the shed he kept sketching when he thought I wasn't looking. The barn was whole, the land was ours, the family stood, and for once, nothing needed to be said. They came to tear us down, and all they did was remind us who we